Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're taking a deep dive into one of the hottest emerging trends driving enterprise technology, which is observability. The ability to track and monitor all the applications, all the servers throughout your infrastructure has become critically important. To discuss that, I'm joined by Nandini Ramani, Vice President, Monitoring and Observability at Amazon Web Services. Nandini, absolutely thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you, James, for having me. I'm coming up on a year at AWS. I'm responsible for all of the monitoring and observability services here at AWS, and very thrilled to be here and talk about something that I'm very passionate about with you and our audience together.
Great. I would imagine that 1 year has probably been a lot of learning. Obviously, the systems, I'm sure, changed quickly. You've probably learned a ton in this past year.
I've learned a ton, and I have to tell you, in some ways, it feels like I've been here for a long time, and other days, it feels like day one every day here at AWS.
That's exciting. All right, let's talk about observability. I mean, I'm amazed at how much buzz it has gotten over the last 1 or 2 years or so. It seems like everyone's talking about it in the world of enterprise tech. What do you hear from clients? What are some trends that are happening in the observability market?
Yeah. So if you look at modern infrastructure and application monitoring, the observability needs of customers over the past decade, we've seen a paradigm shift. And it's been, a transformative journey for customers who traditionally have hosted their applications completely on-prem.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires, and I will tell you, I used to be at Oracle in one of my prior roles. And we would sell like 3 to 5 year contracts where you're buying these servers, which means it's very expensive. You have to forecast upfront your needs going forward, which could either go up or down. And then most importantly, the management of all of this meant you had to hire a lot of IT folks and people to actually manage all of these servers and your applications that are running on these servers. Today, if you look at the journey we've come through to today, that's not how we do it. Applications are transitioning from monoliths to microservices, and the workloads are now shifting to the cloud. And increasingly, customers are relying on both cloud providers as well as specialized ISVs to provide them with all the tooling and solutions to monitor these applications and infrastructure. And one thing I have to say as well, James, I have never seen a company this customer obsessed. You asked me, what are you hearing from customers? And here's what I'll tell you. 97% of our roadmap is dictated by customers. And what we are hearing from them, especially in the observability front, is it's increasingly challenging at scale as they move their workloads to containers and serverless. Things become more ephemeral, right? The workloads are more ephemeral.
Right.
And with the explosion of IoT and every device being an endpoint, we're seeing large volumes of data as they migrate to modern computes and the cloud. And the need for tooling and a consolidated view to be able to analyze this data is what customers are seeking help with mostly. They want a standardized way of troubleshooting. They want to reduce their mean time to resolution. And most importantly, they want to have a single pane of glass no matter where they are in their journey into the cloud.
It's really interesting. I mean, it's almost like, correct me if I'm wrong, observability is something of a race in that the systems we're trying to really monitor are getting bigger and bigger and more complex. Our ability to monitor them and observe them is getting better, but are we keeping up with the systems at this point?
I would say we are keeping up with the systems. We are on a journey collectively. Every provider out there, whether be it a specialized ISV or us here at AWS, we are on a journey and we are integrating. We do have insights into containers, Lambda, whatever type of functions you're running. We are keeping up with that journey. And this is the reason when you shift and you don't know where your workloads are running necessarily in the cloud, it's very important to think of observability first, so that, I often say you cannot manage what you don't measure. And so you've got to take a data-driven approach, which is becoming increasingly important. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the challenges. You briefly mentioned them. What's a challenge or so that companies are facing in the world of observability? I'm sure there are some headaches involved. And what advice might you give them?
Yeah. So the main thing I would say, even though, today we have strong observability practices, and like you said, this is an area that people are really focused on. Unfortunately, even today, typically it's an afterthought. You first decide, okay, I want to have, whether it's EC2 instances or S3, et cetera. You figure out a journey to migrate to the cloud. But oftentimes it's an afterthought for customers to think about observability.
Hmm.
And I think many times the trigger happens, and this need to improve their observability posture comes when they have a significant operational event, which,
Right.
by the way, when it impacts any customer of ours, it is impacting their large number of their end customers. And the process of troubleshooting tends to get very complex
Hmm.
unless you have an easy way to troubleshoot. So you have to detect where the issue is, and then you have to investigate so that you can drill down and figure out exactly where the issue is. And then you have to remediate it. And that process oftentimes takes a lot of effort for customers, and it
Hmm.
can result in business impact, reputational damage, and then of course burnout for the teams and developers and IT teams, et cetera. So my one big advice to customers would be, you have to be proactive. And when you decide on this cloud journey, well, no matter where you are, whether you're just all on-prem and just switching to the cloud, or you're deep in your cloud journey, I would encourage our customers to be more proactive in thinking about observability first rather than as an afterthought. And observability, basically it's a property of the system, which, as I said, helps you detect, investigate, and remediate. And in order to do that, you need a lot of telemetry, which, for us, we offer it out of the box, whether it's CloudWatch or any of the other solutions you use. We support all of them. And we give you out of the box, natively integrated telemetry that's automatically collected. And most importantly, it gives you contextual links between any of these telemetry types, be it metrics, logs, traces, any of them. And then from that, you can come up with a workflow, a run book that lets you quickly remediate any root cause of issues, as well as it lets you easily repeat that process the next time should there be any issues.
Okay, interesting. So you've mentioned Amazon CloudWatch. I think you've talked about some of the value of it. I mean, let's drill down to that a bit. I mean, what do companies really need to know about Amazon CloudWatch?
So Amazon CloudWatch is a native monitoring and observability service for AWS.
Mhm.
It has a large customer base that is increasingly growing. And most importantly, it's natively integrated into over 100 AWS services. And so it lets you operate at hyperscale out of the box. You don't need to manage it or any of that. And the biggest thing about Amazon CloudWatch, it is used, James, not just within AWS, but all of Amazon,
Hmm.
including retail devices. We use CloudWatch for all of our monitoring and observability needs as well,
Hmm.
which then means you can trust us with your data. Out of the box, it's secure, compliant, highly available, and durable.
Hmm. Well, interesting. So let's take a look. I mean, I guess the other interesting part about that is cloud native. I mean, does that fit in a piece here? Is cloud native have more of a problem with observability than traditional cloud, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. When I say cloud native, all I mean is it comes integrated out of the box. So let's say you're using Lambda. We have CloudWatch has Lambda Insights, which lets you monitor the health of whatever's going on with your Lambda work functions and workloads. And we have Service Lens, which gives you one consolidated view across the board. That's what I mean by natively integrated and out of the box. And
Mhm.
while, yes, CloudWatch is our native solution, and we highly encourage our customers to use it, we take an approach of, we support any ISV. We want to meet the customers with their needs wherever they are, which means we support open source. So today, last year we launched Amazon Managed Grafana for any of your console visualizations. We also launched Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus. For anybody using Prometheus from open source, we do all of the management for you so you don't have to. And we also support open telemetry as one of our standard platform, standard ways of getting telemetry in. So we want to, and this is also true for partners and ISVs, by the way, we want to get you your telemetry, no matter what your tool of choice is, we want to be able to get it to you as quickly, efficiently as possible. So CloudWatch is obviously our choice. And, you know, there are lots of things I love about CloudWatch, James, and I want to at least talk about a couple of things.
Please do. Sure.
So one of the unique strengths of CloudWatch is our ability to operate at scale, because like I said, we, you know, all of Amazon and AWS use it. And just to give you, and this is one of the reasons I joined as well, AWS, each month with CloudWatch, we monitor more than 6 quadrillion metric observations. We ingest north of 3.5 exabytes of logs. And with EventBridge, we have 32 trillion events that we consume every month. And I'm telling you, I can't even think of the number of zeros that go with it. Like that type of scale is, by the way, increasingly important, not just for us, but all our customers. So CloudWatch is definitely built for scale, and we can handle any data, and you can be confident that we do it for ourselves and we would do it for all our customers. And then the second thing is it's out of the box, comes integrated with a lot of Amazon AWS services, and you can have, you know, it lets you collect custom or vended telemetry for any applications running on any AWS resource or on-prem as well. So we can do both.
Let me clarify the 32 trillion figure, because I think it's so fascinating. It's 32 trillion what now per month?
Events.
Events.
Yes.
That's a lot of events. I imagine you need some pipelines to handle 32 trillion events per month.
We need a lot of them. Yes, that is true. So my team handles all of that work, so you don't have to build any of it. And, you know, it gives you the ability to scale. And it's not just about infrastructure monitoring on the back. Oops, I'm so sorry. Infrastructure monitoring on the back end, or it's not just about the control plane, data plane. Increasingly, what we're hearing from customers is they want to know where the problem is, right? Is it in your application layer, or is it in the cloud? And so we also provide, you know, in the APM digital experience monitoring space, we recently released real user monitoring, which lets you monitor how the users are experiencing their applications, et cetera. So there's lots of nuggets within CloudWatch outside of its massive scale, which out of the box comes, you know, secure, compliant, et cetera.
Well, let's look at the future of observability. I mean, will there come a time when it is so built in that we hardly even think about it? It's like, I know there are plenty of companies that think about observability as an afterthought now. I think that's certainly a given. Will there come a time when, like, well, it's so built into the system it won't be a problem at all? I mean, what do you see, for example, 2 to 4 years out for observability?
So one of the big reasons I joined is I feel really passionate about this space, having been on the other side. You know, in my startup, like, it's very expensive when anything goes down, particularly no matter what size you are in, obviously, right? And so one of the reasons I joined is that panacea North Star vision that I personally have, that we will get to a spot, you know, in this journey where observability, one, will be intrinsically built in, as you suggested. And I expect all critical telemetry to be auto-instrumented and detected using AI and ML, anomaly detection, if you will. And any emerging issues will self-heal. That's the land, and that's the North Star vision. We are all, not just us here at AWS, but I do believe all providers of observability tools are headed in that. And the question, because to your point at the start of this, you were saying how things are evolving as well, right? We've got to keep up with this transition from servers to EC2 to containers and now to serverless. And that journey, wherever that's headed, we want to be a part of it. And I think for me, observability, it's a 4-part journey. One is, and I cannot emphasize this enough, transitioning from a reactive to a proactive observability model. As I mentioned earlier, I think when it comes instrumented and built in, if we can get all our customers to understand the criticality of being able to observe your infrastructure and applications from the get-go, I think that's number one. The second is guided troubleshooting and remediation workflows. Like I mentioned, Service Lens is we just started on this journey where you get an end-to-end view of your application and all its dependencies that are visually depicted and flagging potential areas of concern. For instance, high latency, any errors, etc. And then I would say the third criteria would be zero to low touch incident detection and remediation. So how do you quickly, with almost no effort, know exactly where the problem is and how can you quickly heal the problem? And then we get toward this North Star of preventative maintenance using ML. I mean, we, have SageMaker and we have DevOps Guru. We got a lot of, if you talk to the ML team, you will see, and we have integration with all of those services. And that's the journey we are on, where we want our customers to be proactive. And then we want to lead them on this journey where your applications and infrastructure can figure out before a problem arises, and then ideally self-heal and remediate, so you don't need these vast teams of developers and IT experts who have to go in and figure out what the problem is, etc. So that's my view of the future for observability.
Interesting. So the idea of the self-healing, I assume that's all about artificial intelligence to self-heal? Or not necessarily?
It is, because obviously you need to put guardrails, right? Today we already offer anomaly detection, which means if your normal workloads run in a particular set of parameters, anytime there's a fluctuation from it, you can alert and alarm, etc. Now, the key thing here is you want to watch out for false positives. You need enough data to train the model so you know what normal behavior looks like, and you don't want to end up with alarm fatigue. So there's lots of nuances to that 4-part journey I just mentioned. But I do think, if you look at how far monitoring, earlier we just monitored the networks, right? And then we are now starting to observe. And then you see, like in the APM space, there's so much of evolution there as well, getting more granular into applications and A/B testing, et cetera. So I think we're well on that journey, not just us here at AWS, but also all of our partners and others that we work with. So that is, I think, the future.
Interesting. Nandini, I think you said it. Really, really fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, James. Always fun to talk about observability anytime.